I'm Tim Schreyack, and I'm a Senior Solutions Architect at Network to Code. And today we're going to talk about ChatOps and how we use that for network automation. So just overall agenda that we're going to cover. We'll do a little introduction. We'll go through a few slides to talk about ChatOps, what it is, how we use it, and how we can interact with it. And then don't worry, we're going to jump right into the demos. I'm not going to give you a lot of PowerPoints. I know the demos are the fun part, right? So we're going to spend most of our time there looking at and actually using and doing examples with ChatOps. So an introduction, a little overview of ChatOps. What is ChatOps? If we look at the overall picture of network automation in the enterprise world, we have these major components. So DevOps, things like Ansible, Jenkins, GitHub, the various tools that we use on the DevOps side of network automation, even our source of truth like NetBox. And then, of course, we have our existing tools, things like Splunk, Infobox, it could be a custom, something that's been written. So these are all the various things, more traditional, older things that need to be integrated into our new DevOps world. And then we also have our enterprise controls. These are very important for compliance, for example, ServiceNow and our ticketing, or BMC Remedy, lots of various options here also on this side. And then finally, we have our ChatOps, right? This is the area we're going to focus on today. So things like Microsoft Teams, Slack, WebEx Teams, there's various other tools as well. So any chat application can potentially be used here that we can use to interact with and control our network. So for example, we could use Slack to extract some data out of our source of truth, out of NetBox. We could use Slack or Teams to instantiate a change, that is to cause Ansible Tower to run a playbook. Or we could potentially use Slack to interact with ServiceNow, and we can have tickets that could be automatically opened and created as a result of actions that occur in Slack. So this is what we're looking at here as we look at the ChatOps interaction with the rest of the world. And what we want to focus on is that it's a different way to view and control the network than what we're used to. So for example, in the traditional world, particularly if we're looking at automation or even any traditional network, only the network engineers actually have access to that lower layer to instantiate a change or to even read back some data from the network, whatever it is, whether it's from a log system or from a device itself. We don't have an easy way to give end users quick access to this same type of information, or even to make changes that we might, through a controlled and monitored method, might want an end user to be able to do. So for example, maybe we have an end user that's using a conference room and they need to change the network jack that's in that room from being connected to a guest laptop to being connected to, let's say, a video camera for using during their presentation. And we might be able to set up a system by which they can automate that change and just instantiate that change via Slack. But advantages that we see from this, though, is that also is advantages to the network engineers. So now you're rushing around, you have your phone with you, you can quickly look up data, you can also make simple changes that you've already set up via the chat application that you're using. So this gives you a quick, easy way to do things that traditionally maybe you would have had to SSH or use some other method to get into the device or get into a web browser to look up some data. And now you can just do it all from within your chat application. So the demos. Let's talk about what we're going to do in the demos and what they're going to look like. Quick overview. So we're going to specifically, again, focus on ChatOps, and we're going to be demoing and using Slack, Microsoft Teams, and WebEx Teams, all to interact with these various components of our DevOps and automation suite. So we'll see how we can use it to do orchestration, automation, and as well as extract data from our source of truth, all from a simple application like chat. So let's dive right into the demos. Okay, so let's drill into some of the things that we can do from the chat applications. So if we take a look at Slack here as our beginning point, you can see that we'll have some additional slash commands than what you might normally see, and these will be part of our chatbot that we have that allows us to interact with the various applications. So let's take a really standard common problem that we have, which is to go find an IP address and where is it connected on the network, right? This is a common problem for the help desk or even network engineers or other possibly data center folks trying to find where does this IP exist in the network. And I mean, we all know that we can do it using searching for the MAC tables and the ARP caches, and we can find this information. But here's a simple, easy way to just go get this info without having to go through a lot of effort. And it's a tool that we can provide to other end users, such as the help desk, to go find these things quickly and easily. So here, as an example, you can see we're interacting with our Autobot and asking him to go find the 10.1.1 IP address for us. And quickly, we get the response back that here it is. It's connected to this switch 01, and it's on this gig 1/3, and here's the MAC address, right? So here's just some simple information that we can get back from the application without having to do a lot of searching for this. Now then, if we take a look at examples of getting information from the source of truth. So in this case, if we use NetBox as our example, perhaps, we want to take a look at a rack, and we're looking for some information about the rack that we might have in a given data center. So here, if we just, real quick, bring up this rack in the NetBox GUI, you can see, we can find this information pretty quickly. However, that's because we know where we're going and we're familiar using the GUI for NetBox. Potentially, we may have other users that may not be, or we might not be in a situation where we have easy access to a web interface. So in this case, we have slash commands for NetBox. And as with most of ours, if we just type the beginning slash command, we can get a nice consolidated list of possible things that we can ask the bot to do for us. So in this case, let's ask the bot to go get us a rack information. So we'll say netbox get rack. And it's going to prompt us with the drop-downs, which make this easy, particularly when we're giving it to users that may not be as familiar with how things are stored in the source of truth. And just easily filling out those drop-downs, we can now get a very nice text representation of the same thing that we saw over in the GUI. Here we just have a representation of the rack, in the rack units, and the devices that are installed in those rack units. Again, making things simple and easy, and yet just a different way to get access to the same data that we might have had in other situations. So let's look at getting other data out of the source of truth. So in this case, perhaps we want to find some circuits. So let's do a netbox get circuits. And again, we get presented with the dropdowns, and we can filter by various options, whether it's type or provider or site. So let's drill into a site. And in this case, maybe we're looking for the headquarters site. And we can see the circuits here that are in the database. And return the values here. So this will make easy for troubleshooting. Maybe we've got DC ops folks in the data center and they're trying to open a trouble ticket. So they can just quickly and easily go back and get those circuit IDs or find other information out about these circuits that may be helpful for opening troubleshooting tickets with providers, as an example. So this is looking at our circuits. Then if we want to look at perhaps in the database, we want to see the circuit providers. So we can either type it out or we can just select here from the dropdown. So let's just do get circuit providers. And here we'll get a quick response from the database. And these are all our vendors that we're using for circuits in our world here. And again, easy information for, the account number, how many circuits we have with them, the various information we have in the database, again, presented back in a nice text-based format for ease of use. And continuing on, perhaps you may be familiar with Kentik, maybe you're not. It's a cloud-based flow collector for things like SFlow, potentially syslog collection. And so here's just a simple way that we can quickly get data out of the database there for that for Kentik. And again, we just type the slash commands. We can see what our options are here. And in this case, we're going to do a get chart. and ask the bot to present us some options of what we have. Here we've got some NetFlow sources. So we send this request off to Kentik and get back a dynamically generated image from the application with, at the moment, here is our top NetFlow talkers, right? So again, looking at ways that you can get access to data without necessarily having to go to each and every individual tool to find the data you're looking for. So you can imagine, you're troubleshooting an issue and, you can quickly drill down to the pieces of information you're looking for. Maybe you find the top talker here in Kentik and realize that's a problem, but you don't know where it's connected. So you can just do a net find that IP and find where that IP is connected out on the, which switch port we're connected to for that particular device. So you can imagine, scenarios where this can really help you drill down quickly to find the data you're looking for without having to be going and hopping between different interfaces to use these different tools. Okay, so now let's jump over and take a look at what this looks like if we were to do this in Teams. But just like we did over on the Slack side, we also have our NetBox commands here, and we can type just NetBox and get a response back from the bot as he lets us know that he's typing, and going to give us our options for things that we could do, right? So we can do, same type of things. So maybe NetBox get rack, just like we did over in Slack, and we'll get prompted for the drop downs similarly to what we did before. So again, we'll just do New York City, submit that into the bot for him to query on, and then the rack that we're looking for. And as he comes and processes that, we get back the same type of thing that we saw over on the Slack side. Of course, one of the nice little features of Teams is, we can heart things and, feel really good about that nice response we got from the bot, let him know that we're happy with his performance. Definitely makes the bot feel good. And of course, we can do all the other same type commands that we saw before in the Slack side, just coming here now from a different interface, right? So helping us be able to just use whatever chat application your company is particularly familiar with or that you use. Okay, now let's switch over to WebEx Teams and see what it looks like in this application. So we can type NetBox just like we did over in the other apps and get the same information back from the bot. So essentially, very similar look and feel, just using yet another chat application. So as you can see here, we have lots of options available for you to use whatever chat app it is that your organization is familiar with or prefers to use. So now let's drill into interacting with our orchestration layer. In this case, we're going to be using Ansible Tower. It could be Ansible AWX, the open source community-based version of Tower. It could also be another tool like Rundeck or even Stackstorm or any other orchestration-based tool that you might be using. And of course, you may be familiar with Tower. You can see, our basic information we have here on the dashboard. And then, of course, we have our history of jobs. And this is a common thing that we might want to see what has run recently or problems we may have had. And as we can do this through the GUI, but we can also get this same sort of information out of our chatbot. So instead, if we do a /Ansible, we can do, and again, similar type commands here where we can just enter the /Ansible and get a list of things that we can ask the bot to do for us. So in this case, let's ask the bot to go get us the jobs. So Ansible get jobs. And the bot's going to go off and query that database for us and come back with a list of jobs that we currently see in Tower. And you can see a few things that are really useful here. First of all, you get a shortcut that is what actually occurred. So you can see here, this 10 indicates we asked for the last 10 jobs. So in the future, as you're typing this, as you become more familiar with it, you might want to see maybe the last 5 jobs or the last 20 jobs, what have you, right? You can adjust that on the fly as you need. And you can also see the link to where we went to query this information. This can be particularly useful if you might have multiple instances of Tower running. You get you know which center this came from, and so you can use that information for either a direct link into Tower or just to confirm it came from where you expected it to. But as you can see, we see a list here of jobs that we have that came out of the history of jobs run in Ansible. So looking at other options that we have under the Ansible commands, one of them here that we have is the Ansible run job template. So let's see what this will do for us if we add in the run job template and hit enter. We're going to get presented with a list of templates that exist in Ansible Tower. And you can think of templates as playbooks. Right? So this is an easy way to fire off a playbook from the chat application. So let's choose the config backup choice here to ask the bot to go run that for us. And as you can see, he takes care of that and comes back with the information from Tower that it's been submitted with job ID 1043. And if we wanted to just double check that the bot is doing what he says he's doing, let's just copy out that get jobs option and maybe just filter that down to, let's say, the 2 most current jobs that have been running. And we can see here, here's the config backup option, and it is currently running as promised. And then going into the Ansible side, we can see that this job is here in the list and is going out and doing the config backups as we requested, following the instructions in the playbook. And so you can see here's a way to gather information off of the network, possibly for compliance or for just standard backups that we might want to do off of our devices. So now let's move on to putting all of these things together. So far we have basically extracted information out of our various applications. We've been able to look up an IP in our source of truth. We have gone into our orchestration layer and examined jobs that have run and looked at things that we have there in those aspects. But now let's look at what happens if we stitch all these things together. So for example, let's take a simple task like adding a VLAN. Suppose that we could do that from our chatbot. So in this case, as you can see here, if we do a /net, we have a command add VLAN. So if we do /net add VLAN, let's see what happens. We get prompted with a nice interface to put in the appropriate information. And of course, we could have typed all this out in the command line if we wanted, but here it's a little bit simpler to do from the dropdown. And we're going to add a VLAN onto this spine here in Jersey City. And let's just say it's going to be VLAN 145, and we're going to call it Interop. So we're going to submit this job via the bot. Bot responds to us that, hey, I'm working on it. And now let's go confirm and see what's actually happening. So if we take a look first on the Ansible Tower side and go into our jobs that we have running, we're going to see here we have a job running. Yes. And if we drill into him and take a look at that job there, we can see that the playbook is going out and doing lots of pre-checks and confirming. But one of the best things that's going on here is our interaction that's occurring with ServiceNow. So as we'll see, if we look in ServiceNow as well, and we look at the changes there, the bot has gone out and created a ServiceNow ticket for this change. And you can see here, we're currently in the state of implement, and it has opened the change ticket. It is recording information about the change. And as the change occurs, we're entering information into the notes here. This is allowing us to have all the documentation that we might need for compliance reasons, as well as for records as to who made the change and what is occurring. So we have our pre-checks going on here. You can see our pre-change. You can see that we're putting the ticket through its various stages. So we move the ticket appropriately through the stages that it should go through. We record the change that is actually going to occur. That is the actual update that's going to happen on the spine in this case. We do some pre-checks as well as post-checks. So you can see here, we confirm that the change actually occurred. You can see the VLAN 145 was created in this case. And the change is being moved out through its various stages until eventually we do have the job completed. And now it has been closed out. So we did go through all the appropriate stages we should have gone through as if a human had done this. And you can see over on the Ansible tower side, the job finishing up as well. And then eventually back over in the Slack side, we have similar information coming back from the bot, just letting us know what happened, the change that occurred, and that it was pushed out and updated into the network. And you can see here, change has been closed. So this is a great example of using the bot to accomplish tasks for us and do things in probably a really different way than what we're used to, but also stringing these various applications together so that we do them appropriately and in a compliant manner so that we can ensure that we can pass our audits and maintain our compliance as needed on the network. So that concludes our demo of using the chatbot to perform network automation tasks. Hopefully this opened your eyes to the possibilities of things that could be done with chat. And of course, this is not a comprehensive list. It's a sample of things that potentially can be done using chat and giving you thoughts of things that you might be, that we didn't talk about that you might wish to do on your network. Hopefully some of you have been asking us questions during this session, so we will have a few minutes here before the next session starts to be able to address those questions and talk about them. But of course, hit us up on Slack channel, Network to Code, or find us here at the conference with further questions or anything that we might be able to help you with. Thanks so much and look forward to speaking with you again.